One of the nicest things about it is that it's one of the major awards at UD. It recognizes that a UD athlete is supposed to be both a scholar and an athlete. I think growing up, I was from a family of 5, 6 boys and a girl, and we were all, not big, huge guys, but we loved playing sports. But we were also really good at school, and my parents expected both. And so I never really saw any conflict between that. Just sort of growing up and learning that there was this, idea of a dumb jock always struck me as kind of odd, because I just never saw any contrast that should be there between the two things. So I think the award really means a lot in recognizing that athletes should be scholars, can be scholars, and that athletics takes a certain kind of intelligence as well. I mean, we know this now, right? Is that football is an incredibly complex sport. You can't be a dumb jock and be successful in football. But, my sport, soccer, is a sport that's all about creativity and thinking on the fly, because it's a really fluid sport. And so, to me, I always call it the greatest of the liberal arts. Right? The coach can train you and talk to you about things, but eventually he has to let those 11 guys get on the field and talk to each other, communicate with each other, and make the game work on their own. So, to me, it's an award that just that makes me extremely proud. I was really proud to have won it that first year. But also, I think that just reflects exactly what UD wants out of its athletics program. I grew up right here in Dallas. I was born in Mississippi, but we moved here when I was 5. So I grew up in Oak Cliff, and started playing soccer on the Keast Park fields in Oak Cliff, when there were you could count the number of kids playing soccer in the hundreds, I think. It was 1970. And then by the time we moved away when I was in 1974, it was already getting to the point where there was no use even counting them anymore. I grew up with the sport. It was the big explosion of the sport in the United States. Lived in the D.C. suburbs for a few years and then came back and graduated from Duncanville High School. I was a member of the first varsity team at Duncanville High School. It was passed as a UIL sport in Duncanville in my junior year. And then came to UD not really expecting to play at all. I thought, my soccer career's over. I had a good run of it, had a good time. And the guy giving me my tour said, found out I was playing soccer and said, "Oh, did you know we have a team?" And I said, "No, I didn't even really look into it." And he said, "You should come out." And sure enough, I came out and just had a great time. We had a great group of guys then. We're a great team, but we had a great group of guys, and it really was such an important part of my UD experience. To be a freshman and to know seniors, and to be able to relate to them and talk to them, and hear about their experience was a great part. I started out as a biology or pre-med, and after my Rome semester, I switched to English. So that was a big switch at the time. It wasn't for grades, it was just that I changed what I was interested in, and I found a sort of a greater love out of literature. So that became a part of it. But I played all 4 years, was captain my last 3 years, and it was a neat thing to dedicate yourself to that much time and yet still keep up your school. Students now have even more. I mean, I think we played 14 games at the time. We played, maybe about 14, 15 games. The guys play so many more games now. It's so much more of a time commitment. But still, I mean, we were down there for 2.5, 3 hours every afternoon, starting in August in the heat. I had to balance that. I was as a pre-med, I had science labs, and so I'd have to miss practice or miss a part of practice, and I would try to rush through my labs and get down to the field as quickly as I could. I think it's a good thing for both the students, and well, it's a good thing for them in time management, but I think, it's, for me, it was always a part of who I was, like being athletic, doing things with my body as well as doing things with my mind. So I didn't really see I didn't see any contradiction in it. It seemed to be a natural way that we, exist as humans, to be both a sound mind, as the great Latin thinker says, and a sound body. Absolutely. I mean, the education I received here was just first rate, and led me, to go on to graduate school, led me to have that ambition to move on and do more, and it definitely laid a wonderful foundation for what I was going to do later. It's a completely different world. I mean, it's much more. I hate to use this word, but it's much more professional. I mean, the whole athletics department is much more professional. I mean, we were kind of doing things on a wing and a prayer back then. I think we had 3 different coaches in my 4 years. The first coach was the soccer coach at Jesuit High School, who would kind of come over just on his off time. Nice guy and a good coach, but we weren't his primary job, his primary responsibility. The other thing is that just the sport as a whole has progressed so much since I was in. I mean, I think up until high school, every coach I had was a dad. And it might have been a dad who tried hard to learn, or I had a Nigerian when I was 9, I had a German when I was 8, but they were still dads. I mean, the whole sport, from the select teams that start when you're 8 years old now, and you get really good coaching, really good skill work, and really good competition. That's just changed in a completely different way. I don't think any of us could ever make the team now. The players are just so much better, so much, just the skills are superb. Their ball movement, their understanding of the way that the game works. The other thing is they can see the game. They can see the game played at the highest levels. The internet has changed that. Cable television has changed that. Anybody can watch the English Premier League on anytime they want to. We would be lucky to see one professional match a year. And so to be able to see the game and to talk about the game and to hear people comment about the game, I think has just increased that level of understanding. And all sports in America, I think, have changed in that way. Sometimes I think not for the best. I mean, when you have a 9-year-old, really playing at this incredibly high level and feeling the pressure and the parents spending a ton of money for it, there's a kind of an innocence that's been lost that we really had. I mean, I just played with a bunch of kids from my, basically my neighborhoods in Oak Cliff. But I'll say that, the quality of the game has improved immensely, and that's exciting. He was a funny guy. He was a Czech guy who had played goalkeeper at a pretty high level in Czechoslovakia. His English wasn't great, but he was really passionate about the game. And he was a very, very good goalkeeper trainer. He trained all the Olympic development players. And the guy who played behind me when I was sweeper, John Sandville, my last 2 years, he went on and transferred from here and played Division I ball at George Washington. So that's how good a goalkeeper trainer he was. I think the freshman team I was on, I have a lot of affection for. Again, because there were these seniors who were just really good guys. Wheels Hannafy and Tom Hansel, he's a really, really fast striker, really talented guy. And a bunch of these other guys that were Glenn Romualdo, who was virtually 4.0 pre-med. And they just really, taught me a lot as a freshman. I mean, we would get on the bus to go, or the van back then, to go to Abilene Christian, and here's Glenn Romualdo, like, taking out his biochem textbook right away. He's like, I can't waste this 3 hours. You guys have fun, but I've got to study. Tom Hansen was like a 397 physics major. And Hannafy, I think, who was like a 397 econ major. It's just hard to explain what it was like, coming from a Texas, pretty good public suburban school, to have those guys as examples for you. And they really taught me, I think, a lot about the balance that we were talking about before, and about the kind of search for excellence in both that we were talking about before. John Donnelly, who was from the East Coast and had been a hockey player, and had barely played any soccer at all. But he was a really bright guy, again, another pre-med, he wanted to be a really successful doctor, who just sort of said, hey, I want to learn this game, and took what he knew from hockey, and, by his senior year was a pretty darn good soccer player. So I have a lot of affection for that team. Those are the guys who first introduced me to Club Schmitz. They took us out after the first game and bought us burgers and bought a pitcher of beer for the freshmen, and kind of introduced us into UD culture. That was a great team. My senior year team was a frustrating team. I thought we had a lot of talent, but we just somehow didn't quite put it together in the same way. But I liked those guys a lot, and had a lot of fun with them. I'll tell you, here's a fun story. It was really about learning something about the game and about ourselves, I think. Midwestern State, right, which for years, they were kind of an early adopter of soccer, and they had a really strong program, even in the 80s for like 15, 20 years, nationally ranked and everything. The middle of the year, they came down here, and they brought their JV, and still beat us like 6 or 7 to nothing. It was embarrassing, and we knew we were up against a national power, but to bring their JV and still stroke us was really awful. So then we went up for the district tournament. It was at Midwestern State in Wichita Falls, and we won our first match, and so there we were somehow in the finals. And Kevin Hallman was our goalkeeper, and Hank set us up in a 4-4-2, and set me as a sort of defensive midfielder and Tom Hensel as the strikers, and then built everybody back in. And we didn't exactly park the bus, but he was trying to explain to us, don't go chase the ball, just keep your shape, play good defense, and we're going to stick with these guys. And it was 0-0 until I think the 74th minute. And actually we should have had a goal. Tom Hensel nutmegged the goalkeeper and tried to leap over him, and the guy jumped up and tackled him. Should have been a clear penalty kick. The ref didn't call it, and the ball dribbled out of the net. So we should have been up 1-0. Now again, they came back and beat us 2-0, but Kevin Hallman's made just spectacular saves and kept us in the game, and he made the alternate team. And it was a way, the first time I kind of elevated my game to understand about the game tactically and strategically. As I say, you don't play every team the same way, and you have to learn to adapt against a really talented opponent. But there are ways that you can, maximize your own talents and play the game really thoughtfully. And that was just, we all left that game, losing 2-0, but felt that we'd made a triumph because we played with a nationally ranked team. I'm still talking at the screen. It's thrilling for me, for instance, to have seen how the Dutch learned how to take apart the Spanish tiki-taka style with long balls, splitting direct balls. And it's true, they learned their lesson from 4 years ago, and they learned how to unlock, what was, a team that just dominated world soccer for 8 years, nine, even 10 years, you could say. That's exciting to me. I love the tactics of the game. I love the tactics of all sports. That's the intellectual side of a sport, right? It's not just the physical ability to do it, which is thrilling, but the thinking man's part of any sport, I think, is what it really appeals to. My friend Tom Goodman, who played with us my senior year, he'd grown up in South Africa and really hadn't come out to play, and then came out and played senior year. His son is now here, and he was in my class last semester, so that was really fun. And Tom and I promised that we wouldn't tell any stories about the other one, because that would ruin, all of our credibility with his son. So we had a great time. Oh, I think the athletic programs, again, as I was saying, are more professional. They're more well supported. The field is a lot better. Boy, you used to get a slide tackle and you would tear up everything on yourself. So the facilities are so much better. I think the attitude towards the sports, being successful is better. Ours was sort of, something fun to do beyond intramurals almost. I think was sort of the way the school took it. It was like, oh, that's fun, let them go and have a good time. But now I think they want to do the sports well, and make a go of it. I worry sometimes that it takes too much time away from their studies, because it is more serious now. But I think the guys and the girls do a pretty good job of balancing that.